I need to talk about what happened at Halcyon Gardens before the detail starts slipping away from me. I've noticed that happening. I'll be in the middle of remembering something from those nights, something important, and the thought just dissolves, like smoke pulled through a crack in a window. So I'm writing this now, while I still can. I found the job listing on a site I'd never heard of. It wasn't Indeed, it wasn't Craigslist. Honestly, I don't even remember how I ended up on the page. The listing was plain text, almost no formatting. Overnight security position, private facility, no prior experience required, $31 an hour, must be comfortable working alone. $31 an hour to sit in a chair at night. I just left my EMT job after 18 months of slowly losing my mind to the things I saw on calls, and I needed something brainless, something quiet. I applied at 2 a.m. and got a response by sunrise. The interview, if you could call it that, was a phone call that lasted 6 minutes. A woman with a flat, unhurried voice asked me 3 questions. Was I comfortable in the dark? Did I have a history of sleepwalking? And this one stuck with me. Had I ever experienced persistent auditory phenomena? I said no to all 3. She told me I'd receive a package in the mail. The package arrived 2 days later. Inside was a laminated badge, a heavy flashlight, a radio set to a single locked frequency, and a printed sheet of instructions. No company name on any of it. The badge just said, Site Monitor, Halcyon Gardens, with a 6-digit number beneath it. The instructions were specific. I'll summarize the ones that mattered. Arrive by 10 p.m., park outside the east gate. The gate code changes weekly and will be texted to me every Sunday. Proceed to the security office located inside the main welcome center. Lock the door. There are 4 monitors connected to 4 cameras: East Midway, West Midway, Carousel Plaza, and the Skyline Coaster loading platform. My job was to watch. Between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., I was to note any activation events, rides turning on, lights flickering, speakers producing sound, and log the exact time and the name of the ride. There was a form for this. It had columns: time, ride name, duration. In one column, I didn't understand at first, direction of activation, meaning did the ride seem to turn on from the north end to the south end, or east to west, etc. The last instruction was boxed in red and bolded. Do not leave the security office between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. for any reason. If the radio activates, do not respond. If someone knocks on the security door during this window, do not open it. If you hear your name, it is not being spoken by a person.
I almost laughed. It read like a horror movie prop, but the money was real. I confirmed that when my first week's pay hit my account, clean and punctual. I told myself the instructions were a liability thing, or maybe a test to see if I'd follow protocol. Some companies do that. They build absurd rules into the onboarding to weed out people who can't follow directions. That's what I told myself. The first 3 nights were boring in the best possible way. I sat in the office, watched the monitors, drank gas station coffee, and listened to a podcast with one earbud in. The park was dead, completely still. The camera feeds showed empty walkways lit by whatever ambient moonlight crept in. Nothing moved, nothing turned on. Night 4 is when it started. At 2:11 a.m., the carousel lit up. Not all at once. It started at the northern rim, one bulb at a time, clicking on in a slow, deliberate wave, moving clockwise until the whole canopy was glowing. Then the platform began to turn. No music, just the mechanical groan of the motor engaging and the slow rotation of painted horses moving through the dark. I stared at the monitor. My pen hovered over the form. I logged in. 2:11 a.m. Carousel, north to clockwise activation. Duration, approximately 4 minutes. It shut off at 2:15. Not winding down, just off, like a plug being pulled. At 2:23, the tilt-a-whirl on the east midway lit up. Same pattern, lights first, then movement. I logged it. At 3:34, the Skyline Coaster's chain lift engaged. I could hear it through the walls of the office, that distant metallic clinking of the chain pulling. But there were no cars on the track. I'd seen the empty loading platform on camera 3. The lift was pulling nothing. Then silence. Dead silence, until 4 a.m. hit like a switch and the whole park exhaled back into stillness. I submitted my log the next morning via a secure upload link. By noon, I received a reply, a single line, pattern noted, continue monitoring. Over the next 2 weeks, the activities continued every night, always between 2 and 4. Always different rides, different sequences. I logged everything meticulously. I'm an EMT, or was. Documentation is muscle memory. But here's the thing that started pulling at me. The activities weren't random. I began to notice that each night the sequence of rides followed a geographic path through the park. One night it would start at the north gate, hit 3 rides moving south, and stop near the food court. The next night, it would pick up near the food court and continue south, then curve east. On night 12, I pulled up the park map they'd included in my orientation packet and started plotting the paths. I used colored markers, blue for night 1, red for night 2, green for night 3, and so on. When I stepped back and looked at the map, my stomach dropped. The paths weren't random walks, they were converging. Every night, the activation route ended a little closer to the welcome center, a little closer to me. I told myself it was a coincidence. I told myself I was tired, that I was seeing patterns in noise, the way you see faces in wallpaper at 3 a.m. I almost believed it. Night 15 changed everything. At 2:07 a.m., every ride on the East Midway activated simultaneously. All of them. The lights, the motors, the speakers, everything roared to life at once. The sound was enormous, even through the walls. I shot up from my chair and stared at the monitors. The camera feeds were shaking, actually vibrating from the resonance. Then they started shutting off one by one in rapid succession, like a wave, like something was running through the park and each ride was lighting up as it passed through. The wave reached the West Midway in under 30 seconds. Then the kiddie rides near the Welcome Center. Then silence. I was standing in the middle of the office, breathing hard, when I heard a sound I will never forget for as long as I live. The carousel, which was less than 200 feet from my office, began playing its music. But wrong. The melody was there, that old-fashioned pipe organ waltz, but it was playing in reverse. Slow, dragging. Each note bends downward like a voice being pulled underwater.
And then the knock came. 3 knocks on the office door, slow and deliberate, spaced apart by exactly 2 seconds each. I didn't move. A 4th knock. Then a voice, my own voice muffled through the door, saying, "Hey, it's me. I left something inside. Can you open the door?" I stopped breathing. I am not exaggerating. I physically stopped breathing for what felt like a full minute, because it wasn't just my voice. It was the exact cadence I use, the exact way I speak when I'm being casual. It had my rhythm, my pauses. I stared at the door. The handle didn't move. The knocking didn't resume. At 4 a.m., everything stopped. I drove home at sunrise and didn't sleep. I called the number from my orientation call. The flat-voiced woman answered on the first ring as if she'd been waiting. "I need to know what's happening in that park," I said. A pause. Then, "You're documenting it. That's what's happening." Something came to the door. Something spoke to me in my own voice. Another pause. Longer. "Did you open the door?" "No." "Good. Then you're fine. Your next shift is tonight." "I'm not going back." She let the silence sit for exactly 5 seconds before speaking again. "Mr. Hale, you were selected because you applied. You were selected because you fit the criteria. If you decline to return, we cannot guarantee the activities will remain confined to the park grounds." The line went dead. I went back that night. I don't know why I went back. That's a lie. I do know. I went back because of how she said confined. That word sat in my chest like a stone. Night 16. I sat in the office with every light on, the flashlight in my lap like a weapon I knew was useless. At 2 a.m. exactly, not 2:07, not 2:11, but exactly 2 a.m., the monitor for camera 4 flickered. The Skyline coaster platform. Something was standing on it. I leaned forward. The camera was grainy, black and white, but I could see the shape clearly. It was tall, too tall, and it was standing perfectly still in the center of the loading platform. It had no features I could make out, no face, no clothing, just a vertical, dark shape that didn't move. Then it did move. It turned toward the camera. I don't know how I knew it turned because it had no face to indicate direction, but I felt the orientation of its attention shift like a weight being placed on my chest.
It stepped off the platform. The camera feed cut to static. Camera 3, Carousel Plaza, showed it again, standing among the horses. Closer now. The carousel was not moving, but the figure was there, filling the space between 2 painted stallions like it had always been there. Camera 2, West Midway. Closer. Camera 1, East Midway. But that didn't make geographic sense. East was farther away, unless it wasn't following the park's layout. Unless it was following the camera sequence. Because that's what I'd been doing every night, scanning the cameras in order, 1 through 4, then 4 through 1, back and forth. It had learned my pattern the way I'd been logging its patterns. We'd been studying each other. The realization hit me like ice water.
Every log I submitted, every activation I documented, every route I mapped, I was giving them data. But the thing in the park had been collecting data too. My habits, my rhythms, my attention. Camera 1 cut to static. I heard footsteps outside, not knocking this time. Footsteps, slow, measured, circling the building. Then the radio crackled. The locked frequency, the one that had been silent for 16 nights, hissed to life. And through the static, in a voice that was almost, but not quite human, it said, "Pattern noted. Continue monitoring." The same words, the exact same words from the email replies. I don't remember leaving the park that night. I have a vague watercolor memory of driving, of headlights on an empty highway, and the sensation of not blinking for a very long time. I woke up in my apartment the next afternoon with my shoes still on and the flashlight still in my hand. I never went back. That was 5 months ago. The pay deposits continued for 3 more weeks after I stopped showing up, then ceased. No one contacted me. No calls, no emails, no threats. The job listing disappeared. The phone number was disconnected. The upload link expired. But here's the part I can't stop thinking about. The part that keeps me up at night and made me write all of this down before it fades. Last Tuesday, I was lying in bed at 2:08 a.m. I know the time because I checked my phone, and the smoke detector in my hallway chirped. Just once, a single sharp beep. Then the kitchen light turned on by itself. Then the TV in the living room. One by one, moving through my apartment, getting closer to the bedroom. I'm starting to think the woman on the phone was right. The activities aren't confined to the park anymore. And I'm starting to think they never needed a security guard. They needed a host.